Hi everyone, and welcome to Comedy Open Mic Evening. Regretfully, only one performer signed up today, and without further ado, I give you the hilarious Akidiot.
Hi everyone. Welcome. Good evening. Anybody from Cincinnati here tonight? What? Oh, I didn't expect that actually, so I don't have anything funny to say. Anyway, why don't we start with the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the Book of Tao? It's really crazy how funny it is. Let me see. Uh, yes. The way that can be walked is not the eternal way. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of all things. Therefore, free from desire, you see the mystery. Full of desire, you see the manifestations. These two have the same origin but differ in name. That is the secret of secrets, the gate to all mysteries. Right? Don't let the translation throw you off. In Chinese, it's even funnier. What? No. I don't really want to go there, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm not sure it's physiologically possible to do, but I'll give it a go as soon as I get home. No, really. I admit this one's a little serious, but when when we get to chapter 25, it is so funny.
The Aikidiot, Aikido, conflict resolution, and the general practice of not being a jerk.
Chapter 7. Fixing some wrong impressions from the last episode, and then promising a recap episode because it's all turning into a big mess. Apologies, dear listeners. Seriously. The last episode was brilliant as usual, but what with Monica staging a coup, me not winning the lottery again, and the general state of coffee in America, it could have been better. Going through the hundreds of thoughtful comments the episode received, I realized that I made two mistakes. The first, I insisted on referring to Herbert Simon's work. It made me feel really smart, which is a great feeling, but going back to Simon's Sciences of the Artificial, I saw that it would take a lot of tweaking to incorporate his theories into Aikidoing and Co., which would make all of us cranky and confused, especially me. The second mistake, the graver one, was insisting on naming the Tao. In this podcast, I try to discuss concepts that are more rounded and blurry than our daily Western lives. Painting them in academic colors is simply not the right way to do it. The whole point of Aikido, Aikidoing, and the rest of it is that it cannot be boxed. It shouldn't be boxed. That is, in fact, the greatest difference between the natural and the artificial, and I think I failed to present it well in the last episode. Which is why it's so great none of us is getting paid for this. The overall theme of the last chapter was adapting technique to situation, seeing reality as it is, complete with its endless array of nuances and changes, like it is in Aikido and sometimes, when we're lucky, in Soviet missile defense bunkers. In general, we want to refer to real life as the natural and to the technique as the artificial. In order to illustrate that, we should go back to the beginning. Like, really, the beginning. I'm a single-cell organism in the primordial ocean. Good for me. Gravity works on me, chemical compounds change in and around me, rays of sunshine go through the water and shine on my shapely mitochondria, but I am unaware of it, since awareness has not been invented yet. This doesn't mean that all the natural phenomena described do not exist. They most certainly do, but the idea of them, the description of them, does not. Billions of years pass, I become a multi-celled organism, and at a certain point, it doesn't matter exactly when, I tell myself cogito ergo sum. Then I realize I don't know Latin, so all I say is, dude, I'm conscious. And at that seminal moment, the universe splits into self and non-self, inside and outside, and yes, unavoidably yin and yang. And from that moment on, we have the natural, objective, measurable world, perceived and measured through our five senses, and then there is the rest of it, which is whatever interpretation our head gives what we perceive, namely the human experience. This human experience, or simply life, as it is sometimes called, is this super cool thing, but nobody really knows what it means. Why? Because most of it is referred to by invented systems of symbols like language. These symbols also represent the natural, but the natural, at least partially, is available to us. When I write the letters Mg on paper, it's not really magnesium, but magnesium exists in the corporeal world. I can touch it, see it. The human experience is nowhere. When I say I am angry, I usually cannot locate anger, quantify it, or make other people feel it. So the only way of perceiving our inner human experience and relating to it is symbols, denominators, invented by us humans. We can talk about our life and emotions using the symbols of language. Remember, the sound is natural. The language and its meaning is artificial. We can paint our experiences using the tools of brush and canvas and our symbolic understanding of colors. We can relieve internal pressure by using the tool of the microphone to record symbolic ideas in podcasts. But whatever we do, our inner experience, that thing that is not the natural corporeal world, is almost always mediated by symbols. And those symbols, those names, are not that experience. They merely represent it. And that is why we will refer here to the human experience realm as artificial, which is, and it's a good thing we don't have time or willingness to discuss this, a little tragic. We mostly do not have an authentic grasp of what we are, only an image of it, reflected through some mediating tools. Bummer, I think. If I had any business sense, now would have been the time to offer the listeners some discounted all-inclusive meditation retreats. Well. Anyway, what we perceive as our consciousness, our inner experience, may be a lot of things, but it is also artificial. And that look at me, mom, I'm self-aware moment gives rise to an endless list of wants, needs, and functions, all living in our head, all artificial. They fill much, maybe most of our world, but they actually have no bearing on the natural portion of it. When we fall off a cliff, gravity does not care if we were chasing a roadrunner or driving drunk or whether we are scared or not. It simply gravitates or graviates or gravates or whatever it is that gravity does. So gravity gravitates. We fall off a cliff and break our leg. The neurons firing up in our body are natural. The electric current can be measured. Our experience of pain and fear is not. It is artificial, not fake, not unimportant, just defined as artificial. At that point, another creature passes at the foot of the cliff. There is some level of acid in its stomach or something, and it sends messages to its brain. That's natural. The creature is hungry. That's artificial. Now we use the artificial tool of language to explain to the creature that we are in pain and need medical attention, which is artificial start to finish. The creature presents us with a piece of paper, which is natural. There are scribblings on that paper, which is still natural. The scribblings say certified medical doctor, Harvard University. That meaning is so artificial, it's not even funny. The other creature wraps our leg in calcified cloth, which is natural. The bones knit together, also natural. The pain is gone, which is artificial. And I think we already got the gist of it. The last thing we would like to define when talking about the natural and artificial is the gradient that exists when we slide from one into the other. If we want to be practical about it, some things are more natural or more concrete than others, and vice versa. When somebody steps on our foot, it doesn't make the concept of kilograms and pounds natural, but it sure is very concrete and not difficult to imagine. Moreover, if somebody steps on our foot and at the same time gives us a lecture about relativity theory, I can give you an immediate guarantee that you will experience pain and discomfort, artificial as they are, as much more concrete than Einstein. So it's not black and white, it's gradual, and for the most part depends on human perception. The more we have to imagine, the more complex the constructs in our head, the more artificial things are. And now, after this too long intro, we can get to the point. Like we already said, artificial does not mean fake or non-existent. It simply lives in another realm than the natural. So there's nothing wrong with considering and respecting the artificial. In fact, the artificial is what makes us, at least in our own view, higher than the rest of the animal kingdom. Technology is the most immediate example, but also kindness, compassion, mutual understanding. They may have some existence of their own, but once again, we are almost unable to experience them without the artificial tools of emotion, thought, and language. I'm definitely not willing to die on this hill, but it could be that the artificial is the source of our humanity. Be that as it may, the artificial can get out of control, like the Tower of Babel. You guys want affordable housing, says God? That's cool. But if you get too smart for your own good, I promise you there will be consequences. Mark my words. And start translating them. It's going to be useful real soon. The artificial, at least in our perspective, is boundless, endless. It's a playground where everything is possible while the natural, corporeal world is not. At least not for us. In the natural world, our credit is very limited. Maybe 100 years to live, several cubic feet of space we occupy, give or take, and that's it. We are painfully aware of it. So most of us are instinctively driven to survive and avoid damage in the real natural world. The artificial world is much more comfortable and less scary. So it only makes sense that we drift more and more towards the artificial, where sunstroke or shark attacks are less likely. We drive 3,000-pound machines that can snuff our lives in an instant, and they sometimes do, but we're cool because we have artificial insurance, artificial music on the artificial radio, and an artificial job to get to. And conversely, we are healthy in the corporeal world, we have food and shelter, and we are devastated because our boss did not praise that animated slide we worked so hard on. And as time goes by, life becomes more complex, incorporating more and more artificial systems, and at some point, our mind is so occupied with layers and layers of imagined constructs that we start losing sight of the natural world, or more concrete world. The imagined takes precedent over the concrete. Sometimes the very natural becomes an afterthought. Ask anybody who walked straight into a wall while texting. Take resumes, for example. When applying for a job, a person's resume, if they're lucky, will get 10 seconds of human attention before being shredded. So the art of perfecting the first 10 seconds of our resume becomes more important than our actual skills. Our sense of direction becomes irrelevant since we use GPS to get from our kitchen to the living room. Our attention to our bodies is diminishing since we have doctors and influencers to tell us what's what. And conflict. We lose much of our ability to assess and deal with conflict since the artificial supposedly does that for us. Let's say we're walking in a street at night when somebody approaches us and asks for money. They're perfectly friendly, but when we refuse and turn to leave, they grab our arm. That could mean anything from the precursor of an attack to a friendly advice. Most of us in today's Western world would experience a jolt of fear, which is only natural, and then the absolute majority will stiffly say, "Sir, let go of my arm right now," and would add, "or I'll call the police," for good measure. Now, don't get me wrong, that is probably what I would do too. But let's take a moment and consider. If the person is indeed hostile, then simply telling them to let go is not going to work, is it? And now that we've threatened them with calling the police, they will definitely not let us do what we want, like pulling out our phone and dialing. If anything, we've alerted them that we are going to fight back in some manner. So if this is indeed a dangerous situation, we have just made it worse. Why? Because we live in a world in which physical communication is considered rude, offensive, or primitive. We live in a world where breaking social norms is scary and in which the law is the final word. And we believe, artificially of course, that this is the natural concrete world. And many a time it is, but not in this case, not with this person. Like Sean Connery said in The Untouchables, we just brought a knife to a gunfight. So the arm grabbing could have been completely innocent. The person actually wanted to say something helpful, but their English was not good enough to find the word wait. It could also have been the beginning of an attack. They planned to swing us by the arm and bring our chest right into the tip of their knife. Either way, our little speech about letting go and police would have been of no help. What would have been helpful? I don't know. I wasn't there. So this is possibly the long-waited-for point. We can put life in boxes, give them certain names, and have ready-made reactions for certain situations. That is not only legitimate, but crucial. We cannot navigate today's world without shortcuts and templates. But we need to preserve our ability to read the world, to read people, and to incorporate new information into our templates, especially when things go wrong. The person's body language can tell us what their intentions are. Their tone can do that too. The fact that they chose to approach us under a street lamp or maybe in a dark corner may mean a lot. The stance of their body as they grab us can tell us if they have a knife or a blunt instrument. Being able to smell alcohol on their breath, weed, or mouthwash can be very helpful. But this sounds like science fiction, right? We can't possibly know how to detect all these things and integrate them into the split second of our threat assessment. Maybe, but we can try. And if we try, we might actually succeed. Now, like we said before, most of our conflicts will not take the form of life or death situations calling for advanced ninja skills. They will find us at home with our partners, children or friends, at work with our peers, superiors, and that asshole from HR who always gets our name wrong, intentionally. And in political rallies, where we look at the other person standing behind the line of policemen and see a mortal enemy. These are the situations where we might want to put the pre-existing artificial aside and start listening to the natural world, gather more information, and consider multiple options. These are usually life's conflicts. Dark alleys are just a bonus.
Yes, people, don't get pouty. We promised a recap, and a recap we shall have. Don't forget to bring your Hello Kitty notebooks and a ton of good spirits. God knows we're gonna need it.